This is Fam Electric Ghost, and we're live on the air with Coach Yana. And I want to welcome you to the Fam Electric Ghost podcast. How you doing today?
I'm doing quite well. I'm excited to be here. How are you?
I'm doing fine. It's just interesting to talk to people live. Been doing it since 2016, as we discussed, and have over 1,200 episodes. But it's just I like to talk to creative people who are in all walks of life. So we're going to talk to you about a couple of things. One of the big topics we're going to talk about today is the art of confidence, creative tools to help children grow. And so, welcome to the Family Like a Ghost podcast. And we'll kind of start with we always ask every guest a couple of questions. What motivates you and why do you do what you do?
Oh, that's a really good question to start with. So, what motivates me at this point is seeing the children grow. I literally this morning just got a new review from a parent, and she mentioned that in the review that her child was shy. And I never, ever, ever would have guessed that this particular child was shy in personality because from day one, she's just been like motor mouth of the South, which is a good thing. So,
Hmm.
seeing the growth of the children and then hearing from the parents like, oh my gosh, they're noticing the growth and the difference in their confidence and capabilities. For me, that is definitely why I keep going. And what motivated me is I am a big sister, like just organically, because I have younger siblings. But I also know that not everybody has access to a big sister or like a big sister that's like me. Like I take that role very,
Hmm.
very seriously and always have. And so I am motivated by the me that wished that I had a big sister, the me that wished that I had the person like myself who could help monitor emotions and regulate emotional intelligence. And oh, I'm angry. What am I angry about? Where is this coming from? So I am motivated by my own personal experience, and the children that I interact with and their parents just make every single moment worth doing. So yeah, it's the parents, the children, and my own past experience as well.
That's interesting because I always talk to a lot of people that like to kind of pay it forward.
Hmm.
They like to take the benefit of their experience and bring it out into the world through whatever creative process they have. And a lot of times, helping children is a real big thing because people sometimes, in this day and age, they have like the internet being like the nanny, which is probably not the best way to do things. Just like when I'm a child in the '70s, people had the TV be the nanny,
Yeah.
and back then you had Sesame Street or Electric Company. Maybe it was okay, probably not, but at least you had that. Now we have like so many things that maybe that's a little too wide open.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. And that's also why I have like the Roblox
Oh,
clubs
I
because
lost your audio for a second.
can you hear me?
Yeah, your audio left. Oh, geez,
Can you hear me?
your audio.
I can hear you, but I don't know what to do. Can you hear me? Uh, I don't know what to do. Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I don't know what happened.
I I
Yeah.
can hear
Oh, what's going
you. I don't know. Um, I don't know what to do. Uh, I don't know.
on? Oh, you can hear me. I say I can't hear you for some reason. It's not coming through. I don't know what happened. I don't know if the Bluetooth kicked in or something, but it's not coming through on your side. Let's see.
What about now? Can you hear me?
Oh, there you are.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what happened.
Yeah, for some reason, like the audio dropped. I don't know.
Okay, well, I did turn the Bluetooth off, so maybe one of my AirPods connected or something. But I
Yeah,
was just,
yeah, it was probably that.
yeah, I was just saying that that's also why I started the Roblox clubs because a lot of parents don't realize that anybody with the internet has access to Roblox, and so children could be playing with adults or like anybody in the whole world, and parents don't even realize it. So I think, like you said, back in the day when it was just the TV, it was still like, okay, maybe you shouldn't have the TV as the nanny, but there's only so much you can access on the TV. But on the internet,
Yeah.
you can access anything, and children are on the internet for hours and hours and hours and hours unmonitored, and it can be really dangerous. So that was a big,
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of predators, out there on the net.
especially like on Roblox, because they know it's a children's platform. And I have seen a lot of children end up in not so great, unfortunately, situations because they're like giving their addresses to these people. So at least if they're playing with me, I can like watch them. Like, let's not do that, guys.
Yeah, because people don't realize how unsafe it can be because you don't want to give your direct, location information, and even have adults make mistakes, in terms of like, oh, I want to sell something, and then having people come to your house is like maybe that's not the best thing to happen, you know.
Exactly. Exactly.
Um, but yeah, it's just like so. In terms of like the laptop life coach, like how did you come up with that idea?
Yeah, so I don't remember what the word is called, but I like when all the letters start with the same. I think it's like alliteration or something. So
Yeah.
when it's like CCC or LLL. And so laptop and life coach both start with L. And I want it to be primarily virtual. So as long as you have a laptop, you can have access to a life coach, specifically a children's confidence coach. So that's pretty much how I came up with the name.
So in terms of like lessons learned as you started to do this, like working like online, have you seen like because there are people who prefer like in person, but after COVID, there was a lot of people who had moved, and they don't live where they used to, and they take advantage of being online. There's a lot of people say, well, I'm in IT. I haven't had to go in the office for like 3 years. Um, so I used to be a road warrior, but like I've come to like the online experience because it allows me to do other things. I'm not like spending time on the road all the time.
Yeah, so I also think like children nowadays they're on the internet all day anyway. Like if you have a phone, most of them have their own devices, their own iPads, their own cell phones, the video games, like literally everything is 100% online all the time. And so instead of creating a space where it's like, oh, get off the internet, I'm like, okay, well, at least if you're going to be on the internet, you can be safe, you can be monitored, and we can talk about internet safety and things while we're on the clubs. And with my self-paced things, like literally everything's internet based. So I appreciate that everyone's moved that way. And since the children tend to be early adopters anyway, I just felt
Hmm.
it would make sense because they're online anyway. And then another thing with COVID, a lot of children are not as social anymore. Like they don't really talk to as many people face to face. They're a bit shyer. I've seen a lot of children whose parents will say, oh, my child has social anxiety and different things like that. So I do allow the children to show up in their own way. So if they are a bit shyer, that's fine. If they're not shy, even better. So,
That's good. I think a lot of times people we live in a world where like the Tony Robbins world is like, oh, there's 6 steps for this, 12 steps for that. It's going to work for everybody. And what I find is there's a lot of individualism. Like as a musician, like as a producer, you're kind of like a music teacher, and you run into if you're working with an artist, everybody has their own unique way of processing something. So if you go and use the same approach for this artist versus that artist, you can get wildly different results. Like if you don't actually like read the room and like read who the person is, instead of let's say everybody. I remember as a child of the '70s, like school systems, like they didn't really think about
right.
people who had special needs or people had differences. Like they were just like, okay, well you don't fit in, and they just throw you into some
Exactly.
back of the room. They wouldn't even try to figure it out.
Yeah, no, and that's actually a really good point too, because since it's virtual, there are a lot of children that I interact with who might be, others would say, like delayed in different areas or don't feel comfortable having the camera on, even. There's some children who they'll turn the camera on just to say, like, I'm here, and then that's it. There's
Yeah,
some,
turn it off. Yeah.
yeah, they won't speak the whole time, but they'll be in the chat. And so there's one child in particular, he never turns his camera on, but he went from like just saying hi in the chat to now he'll comment, or like there's one club specifically, they always vote me 1 star because I don't give them extra hours like after club. And I'm like, guys, it's 10 o'clock at night where I am. Like, it's time to go.
Yeah. How many extra hours can you have?
Yeah, and so he'll be in the chat, Coach Yana, 1 star, another round. And before he would just say hi, and like that was it. So
Okay.
even
So
a child,
getting
yeah, who doesn't want to show their face and only chats, even he feels comfortable enough to express himself. So I think you brought up a really good point that not all adults are the same, not all artists are the same, and definitely not all children are the same. Children are the most I don't want to say like vulnerable, but when it comes to words, and they take
yeah.
everything so intensely and so personally, and I feel like it's so important for children to feel seen, safe, and heard, and not like an extra person, not like a bother, not like there's something wrong with them. And so that's what I really look to cultivate. And the last thing I'll say is a lot of times also people confuse shyness with low self-esteem, or loud child with confidence. And just because a child is loud doesn't mean that they feel comfortable within themselves. And just because they're quiet doesn't mean that they're insecure. So I'm also trying
Yeah.
to find that balance of like, okay, guys, just because you're outwardly one way, it doesn't mean that that's how you feel inside either.
Yeah. And then the idea like neurodivergence is a lot of people that, in my industry in software, even in the creative industry I'm in, I come to find there's a lot of people who are kind of neurodivergent. So, they might put on a mask, or like they're very shy, or they're have a lot of bravado.
Right.
And there's a lot of room on the spectrum, right? And so, like how you get to this person, you try to get the more honest performance out of the person that has all this bravado. So they might
Right.
do a lot of outwardly stuff that's like a little showboating, and then you
Mm,
say, well, maybe we want to get something a little vulnerable.
yeah.
Maybe you need to, pin down your armor a little bit, take a little, a couple pieces off, and let's try to get to something that is maybe not so comfortable for you, but it's actually going to get us to a better place, because we're going to explore that kind of looking glass self. We're going to do a little inner work, and that's what I try to bring out. It's like I want to bring out the thing that they're kind of scared of, and make them get more comfortable with it.
Yeah. And I also agree because I was the child who was louder. Like, I can talk a mile a minute about anything under the sun. And so another thing that I also had to learn, and that I instill and working to instill in the students that are like myself, is that getting them to know that other people have thoughts too. Other people have opinions that they want to share, because a child like I used to be, you can tend to take over the whole conversation. And especially
Mm,
virtual space, those quiet children can just be totally ignored
yeah,
because,
run over.
yeah,
Yeah, run over.
every time they talk, the other one's like, oh, wait, but I have another idea. So I can also resonate with that aspect of like, all right, I know that what you have to say, young Coach Yana, young Yana, I know what you have to say is important too. And if you just wait 1 second, I also want to hear from someone else, because on the flip side of that, those talkative children are always told that they talk too much. Because I know what that's like. They're always told that they have too much to say. They're always told. So when they feel safe, then they just blah in there.
Yeah, to go off. Yeah, it's like it's just coming out.
Exactly. So I have to be mindful even with them to like let them know, hey, it's not that I don't want to hear from you. And it's not that what you have to say is not important. It's that what you have to say is important. And so is what such and such has to say too. So is what, and so I'll like call the quiet ones by name specifically to see like, hey, um, Susan, I don't have these children named Susan. I don't like to put my kids out there like
Yeah,
that, but
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Susan, are you feeling all right today? How do you feel about this? Or da 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 da. So I work to engage everyone, and then also make sure that those kids that were like me that get told they talk too much, that they still have the space to talk a lot, but recognize like you're not the only one here who has something to say. So it's a delicate balance.
Does class size help with that? Like, if you have a class that has like 30 people, then that's gonna get awkward. If you
Yeah,
have a class that's like 5 or 10, maybe it's more doable. Is that have you found there's a certain size you have to work with.
Yeah, that is right on the nail. So none of my classes are over 8 students because of that. And some classes, if I notice that there are more talkative personalities, I'll make it even less. Like there's one class
Mhm.
I'm not going past 6, just because of the
The
children that.
nature of the class.
Yeah. So like if I have it's the class that they wrote me 1 star, they're at a cap of 6 because if they get we tried 7 once and it just kind of went over.
Doesn't work. But that's interesting that you're able to do that because that's where I kinda talk about the cookie cutter
Mm,
mindset is like they'll go try to pack in 20, 30, 40 people.
exactly.
And then it's like if you get the people who are more outwardly comfortable, they'll just run over everybody.
Yep,
And and it's like they want to be heard, but it's like then nobody else is getting the value. Like
exactly.
what's the value proposition if only the type A's are getting all the attention, which is kind of like the problem with a lot of school systems I've seen is like, are you teaching to the top 2%, right?
Exactly.
And then you don't actually get everybody else is not getting the skill set. And then the teachers like has these favorites. And it's like, well, then the whole society is suffering because not everybody's able to self-actualize because you're only paying attention to the guys who are getting the A
Exactly.
or the B, and then nobody in the C and the D students, they need some extra attention.
Exactly. And so while I don't necessarily have grades and things, I know that's not what you were saying, but just to add to your point, um, I really, really, really do my best to pay real attention to each personality trait, especially like the kids that are there for a while. Like I know it specifically like with the gamer clubs because so far that's the most popular. I know their
Mhm.
usernames, so when they like walk down the runway in this particular game, like I'm like, "Hey, Susan, what made you come up with this?" and "What made you do that?" and this, that, and the third. So trying to engage them, but also, like you said, if adults are different, children are different. And on a real baseline level,
Yeah.
children everything. They pay attention to everything. They read into everything. So like on I find myself having to really clarify what I'm saying too. Like one time we were playing this dress up game on Roblox. It's the best game ever, Dress to Impress, as far as I'm concerned. And the theme was, I think it was disco. And then one of the students was like, "Oh, I'm gonna dress up like the '90s," and I just start laughing immediately because I'm like, the '90s wasn't disco, but based on her facial expression, I immediately stopped laughing. I'm like, "Hey, hey, hey, wait, 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 yeah,
70s.
yeah." I'm not laughing
Yeah.
because of you. I'm not laughing at you. I'm just laughing because I just think it's funny because disco was the '70s, and she still had like a, "Oh, like okay," and I'm like, "But no, 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 no." So I had to really break down, like, "Look, look, look. It's not you I'm laughing at. It's just because I feel more older because the you didn't realize the time." And so after I explained
Yeah.
yeah,
Time just
to the
time
point
sync,
where
yeah.
she got it, then I was like, okay, we can move on to the next conversation. And she kept saying, "Oh no, I'm okay." But I'm paying so much attention to everything that I kept reiterating, "It's not you, it's not you." And then she finally, I saw her shoulders change, and I was like, okay, she's back. And so then we,
She got it.
yeah. So even something small like that, where I just thought it was funny, she
Yeah, it can affect adversely, yeah.
exactly. So that is a little bit of a challenge, but it's not so bad because like once I get to know them, I can see, oh, she feels a type of way, or like another class, they're really competitive in there. And so sometimes like one is feeling the competition and then they go a little too far. So I'm like, oh, I gotta catch that. Let's be nice, guys. Let's bring it back. So it's a constant while I'm even though I'm playing with them and enjoying, I'm constantly paying attention to their faces, the ones that have their cameras on, constantly paying attention to
Mhm.
their body language, just to make sure reading temperatures, is everyone okay with the competition today? Or because sometimes the most competitive one might be having a bad day. And so the normal stuff that wouldn't impact them today is the biggest thing on the world. So I have to
Mhm.
all of that, but children don't hide their facial expressions. So it's not hard to tell when they're not.
No, yeah, it's good to read because I think it's maybe, people aren't don't have that situational awareness that you have, and they're kinda stuck in their paradigms. Like, if you get people who are like they, it can happen if like you get your master's degree and your PhDs, you get aligned to the theory, you get
Right.
aligned to the concept, right? But then when the present moment happens, you're so hung up on the concepts or the archetypes that when
Yeah.
it's something's different, you kind of either dismiss it or you don't handle it. You don't seem to be able to, like, I kind of take it as like a jazz musician can, like, there's no bad note, there's an opportunity. They
Mm.
can kind of adjust to the moment, where a classical musician, they're reading Bach or Beethoven or Chopin, and they have to go exactly what was on the page.
Oh,
They
I
can
didn't know.
play with the dynamics, but they gotta know what the next note is, where a jazz musician doesn't have to know what the next note is. They can
Wow.
actually go and play with it, and it doesn't freak them out if they see something different. They
Wow.
know how to respond to it.
I love that. And you actually bring up a good point because I don't have a degree in children's minds or anything like that. I have a degree in marketing. So it's slightly different from confidence coaching, but I have a lifelong of being a person who wished she had a big sister. And then I have like, I think like 15 years or no, definitely. Oh my God. Don't hope my sister doesn't see this. I have another sister between there. So like 20 something years of being a big sister. So I have that boots on the ground experience. Uh,
Yeah, organic experience, like life experience versus like book learning experience, and this is where people kinda I was reading about this guy. It said, like, music theory sometimes ruins creativity in musicians because they get stuck in the dogma,
mm,
where a lot of most famous musicians never went to Berkeley, never went to some,
uh,
academy, and they went and did something that the theorists would have never done, like
exactly.
a Miles Davis or a Hendrix, or like a Herbie Hancock. They went and did things that were beyond the theory.
Yeah.
They actually took they went different paths. They kind of like say, well, regardless of the theory, or like blues musicians, they
Yeah.
weren't taught; they were self-taught,
Yep.
and they went directions that you wouldn't normally go because they didn't feel the constraints of the canon.
Yep.
You know,
That's true. And it also resonates like as an artist because I am like a painter and things as well. I didn't go to like to school for painting and artistry and anything like that. And one of my friends, he's like really into design and things. And he was saying how in like art schools and things, they'll tell you you have to mimic somebody else's style before, and then you alter their style to create your own
yeah,
style. But then it's not really your style, it's your version of somebody else's style. So I totally agree. And then also what you mentioned about the school system, one of my big goals in life is to have my own 24/7 school. So like slightly boarding
mm,
school, but like daycare, but just 24/7 school in general. Because I agree, I don't think it makes sense the way that traditional school systems have been set up. And I can go down a long rabbit hole
yeah,
that
that makes a lot of sense.
but like, even the fact that you have to be there like 8 when most parents have to be at work at 7, 8 o'clock, like that doesn't make sense to me. Or like when school ends at 3 and parents are still at work until 5, 6,
Yeah,
7.
it's kind of based on a real old. I mean, some of these school systems were based on farm schedules. If you actually go look at like why they were done the way they were, it's based on the way the farm worked,
I didn't know that.
right? Or the way the old factories worked, right? And it was based on like a society that we're not even in anymore,
Exactly.
right? So why do you have a structure that's based on 19th century stuff and we're in the
Exactly.
21st century?
Yeah. And then like when you hear, so I'm also, you asked what motivated me as well earlier. I'm also really motivated about protecting children's innocence and their imaginations because imaginations create visionaries, create critical think.
Mhm.
Sorry about the traffic thing, but create
That's fine.
thank you. Independent thinkers, critical thinkers, problem solvers, solution identifiers, and then their innocence is something that you can't get back. And I've seen, and from when I was in school, I know because there was a few teachers at my school that a rumor had it. This was when I was in high school, but rumor had it they liked the students as well. If you catch what I'm saying, and
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah, yeah.
a lot of that in the school systems. So there's parts of me that is like, if this is a place that parents are supposed to just leave your kids for hours and hours, you
It
should
has to be safe.
exactly that they're going to be safe. If a child is being bullied, that someone's going to do something about it, not just like, oh, slap on the wrist. Like there was a little black boy who was hanged in the bathroom by his book bag by some older kids, and the teachers, like, that's unacceptable. It's you can't.
Yeah, unacceptable. Yeah, the bullying, I think I like the bullying that happens, and, because sometimes what I found in school, I'm more of an artist, and, there was a lot of leeway given to the jocks,
Yes.
given to the sports kids. So if they like the quarterback or the whoever's on the soccer team, the lead player, they were able to get away with bullying kids
Yep.
just because the parents and the administration was so concerned about that team winning that they allowed those kids to bully like the art kids or the neurodivergent kids or the kids that were in the special needs classes, and they didn't really give it equal weight.
Nope.
If one of those superstars did something, they didn't really get in trouble. So it sets
No.
up a bad dynamic, you know.
That's true. And so I was on the jock side in a way because I was a cheerleader, but I did notice, I'm not going to say which school it was because I'm not trying to, cause a disaster fire over there, but I do remember even like the health difference is different because we had a doctor, like I guess like a nurse or whatever for like the general population, and then we had nurses for the athletes specifically. So I remember one time I wasn't practicing, so I went to the regular nurse. I was having a full blown asthma attack in the nurse's office, like full blown. They did not see me. I'm sitting there like, in the
Oh,
lobby.
geez. Yeah, that's not right.
Yeah, and then after I calmed myself down, literally I was in there for like an hour having an asthma attack. After I calmed down, they finally saw me and was like, "Oh, what did they say?" They're like, "Oh, it doesn't seem like you're having an asthma attack." And I'm like, "Well, because I've done now. It's been an
Yeah, he went through it.
And then at
Yeah.
school, after that experience, I was like, I'm never coming back to the regular nurse again. So after that experience, I ended up twisting my ankle at a weekend thing at the beach. So had nothing to do with school. I came back. I went to the athletic nurse, and they wrapped me up. There was like I was in and out in 10 minutes. But when I was having an asthma attack, I was stuck in there. So it's
Yeah, it was
interesting
just
because
like there's a prioritization of like what's important. What who do they find important,
exactly
if over and they don't even realize what they're doing a lot of times. If you actually call them on it, they'll say there's no difference.
right.
Most of the time, they'll try to say, "Well, there's not a problem. They're not doing preference." But you can, we can get into that. But I think it's interesting that what you're doing is to make very immersive, customized, empathetic, and you're reading the room, like I said. I think that's super important because I think people don't really listen.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's like people kind of listen gently. They're more concerned about the next thing you're going to say or what they're going to say than actually what it was said. And I think really to learn, like you said, children are paying attention to what's in between the lines.
Yes.
And if you really don't care, don't take care with your words.
Mhm.
Parents that can get accused of this, people in administration, people, adults, they don't really think about the things they say because, oh, now they're children.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, well, I think you need to change that mindset.
No, I definitely agree, and I have been on like both sides of the thing because um I've had experiences with adults who made it very clear that what I had to say was not important. What I had to say was just like whatever. And then I also had experiences with adults who very made it very clear that what I had to say mattered to them and what I had to say was important. So I should
Mhm.
be on that side of like, and even when it's something like for example, because I have multiple dress to impress clubs. That's like the most popular one. That's the Roblox game that all the girls and little boys just love that game, whatever. So in that club though, there's like lore that the kids really like. But after the fourth club, I already know all the lore that there is. I
But
already know
after the
that there
fourth club, I
all the lore that there is. I already know there my okay. There was like an echo, but anyway, I can like I already know that there's going to be a new update today. For literally, there's an update in the game today. So I already knew that 3 days ago. But no matter how many times I already knew it, when they tell me, I'm like, what? Are you serious? They're like, yeah. And did you know that Lana got kidnapped in this one game? And like, yeah, I already knew that 2 weeks ago because you may forgot, but you told me already. And then the other kids told me. And then I already know there's another update coming. But every single time, no matter how many times I've already told me, because sometimes they do tell me the same thing over and over again, no matter how many times I've already heard it, I still give them the space to act like I've never heard it before. I still give them the space to express because I remember as a child, I used to hate that. Like if I was telling somebody something, especially an adult that I really wanted to share something I thought was interesting, and they're like, I already know we breathe
Yeah,
air.
you kind of minimize it. Like if you kind of take the air out of their balloon, you're
Exactly.
like because it's like people just like I just don't think they think about like what you're saying, the impact,
Exactly.
and
Exactly.
it's just like stepping back because everybody's moving so fast in today's world that people don't take the. I came come from a world in the '70s that things are a lot slower
Oh,
in terms of like people could read 300,000 word books. We
oh,
had like 4 channels on the TV, not a lot of distractions. So people would stay in something. You'd stay in that book. You're not going to get pinged by TikTok. So you're
mm,
actually going to read the book, right? That you're going to actually not channel surf because there's only 4 channels. You're going to actually stay on that show and actually watch it.
yeah.
So I think sometimes today we've got so many distractions that people just want to just be very dismissive.
Yeah. And like to your point, because I used to I wasn't in the 70s, but like I would like pick a show and then that would be what I watch. But like now my siblings, even me now, like I might be having a show on my iPad and I'm on TikTok on my phone. Or
Yeah,
like
yeah, we're all over the place.
everywhere. And then like you said, everything's so fast. You have microwaves now, we have air fryers, we have instant delivery. Like if I order something from Amazon and it's not here the next day, I'm like, what is
Where
going
is it? Yeah, what's going on? It's like, I want it now. Like before, people were waiting like a week, 2 weeks for something mail order. I mean, I'm reading a comic book and I see something and I order it and I got to go clip it out of the comic book, go get a stamp and put it in the mail and wait like 2, 3 weeks for it to come.
Yeah, and like I have a funny story about mail. Like when I graduated from, it was either high school or I think it was high school. My nana told me that I had to send handwritten thank you notes to like everybody who got me a gift. So I'm like, okay, not a problem. So I get the stamps, I send the notes out, and all of them came back to me. And I'm like, I was like, what is going on? And so my nana asked me, like, why didn't you send the thank you notes out? I'm like, I did, but they all returned. She's like, what happened? I'm like, I think it's the size of the paper because they were like small envelopes. And I'm
Oh,
what? And I'm like, yeah, like it has to be because of the paper size. Maybe they didn't like it. She's like, let me see. I had sent them all to myself because I never sent mail before. So
yeah, you didn't know how to actually send it. Yeah.
they all came back. So I had to resend them all again. But that way, at least now I know which, because only time that got mail was my name was in the middle. So
Oh no, so you didn't realize how it gets how to address. Yeah.
I still haven't lived that one down. And that was like a long time ago.
And with email today, I wonder how many people actually know how to mail a letter.
Exactly.
People assume that everybody knows how to do it, but people are doing stuff through online forms, and everything's like online, and so you're not actually sending, filling out a piece of paper, put it in the mail. It's like that is like probably very foreign to a
Yep.
lot of young people because they just want to just go on my phone and do it.
Right. And
Well,
and
I don't know about that.
that also brings up the wider point of just life in general is that like the same things that applied back in the day aren't as relevant now. So like we're talking about like the school system and how things are set up, the way that we were, even myself, or how you guys were, or even more seasoned down the line, it's a different world. So we can't engage with these children the same way that we engaged with previous generations. Even the way that I grew up versus these, I don't even know what generation we're at now, but the latest generation of children, they live a completely different life.
Yeah, they're probably never gonna learn the Dewey Decimal System in the library.
See, I don't even
And if they went into those index cards, they wouldn't know, like, "Well, how do you find a book like this?" I have no idea.
exactly, or like even what is a library? Not even really, but like you can have books on your phone, books on your iPad. You can Audible, Amazon books.
Yeah, I mean, most of the research is gonna be done through ChatGPT
Yeah,
or Gemini,
yeah,
and, they're not gonna know about going into that Dewey Decimal System and going and looking up a book and having to cite it and learning, like, the end notes and the footnotes in the old way that you had to physically go into your book and go find
right.
it. Now everything's like, I could be online in my Word doc or my Google Doc, grab something from ChatGPT, look where where the citation is, put it in. That was all manual.
Yeah,
That was all stuff that you had to know how to actually do it in a certain way, and it was all, like, kinda etiquette of grammar and structure, and I don't know if those things are being taught, and sometimes because you don't know the manual way, you might lose some of the importance of why you needed to do it that way.
and you brought up a good point also about ChatGPT. Excuse me, and why I'm so I try to emphasize imagination for the critical thinking because ChatGPT or all the even though I use the AI, so I'm not trying to shade
Mhm.
AI, but like if that is the only place you're getting your information from, how do we know it's not skewed? How do we know
Yeah,
what
well, yeah, you have to trust but verify.
all they're doing is taking in the source that is curated for them and the
Well,
information.
yeah, what you learn is, like, when in computers, what we call this idea of called garbage in, garbage out. And machine learning is based on somebody's discernment of what that machine should learn. So
Oh,
if you have somebody who has a point of view, if they only put in their point of view into the learning library of what they think is beautiful or what they think is right or correct, it's going to be skewed based on their worldview. So the computer only learns what you give it.
I didn't
So
know
if
that.
you don't give it, like, so say, let if you were talking like political science and you never teach about like socialism, capitalism, feudalism, but you put a priority that I'm not really going to study socialist structures or communal structures or indigenous societies. I'm not going to put a lot of value on that. I'm only going to put a value like at Rome and Greece and Europe, and I'm not going to look at Eritrea. I'm not going to look at stuff that happened in Africa or Central America with the Incas or the Aztecs. If you don't value that, then it's not going to give you a societal point of view, which is very skewed.
Yep.
And then when you see what this is what's right, well, that's because the person who put it in said that that was what's right.
And then like there's already like sometimes the content as well that is pushed towards the youth is infuriating to me. So like then you add the content that's I don't think is youth appropriate, but suddenly this is for kids or the the skewed view of what reality is based on whoever put in the information for ChatGPT. Because I remember even I asked ChatGPT a question about myself, like, and it was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, um, I can't answer that because it's like a hate crime or something." It wasn't a hate crime.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
something so.
yeah,
I'm like, this is totally not any. So even like the level of information you can get is policed, and they're policing that, but then promoting, like I'm not trying to shade like no artists or anything, but like Ice Spice for kids or like
yeah,
Tyler Nickelodeon thing, and like why was she? Why is the singer of a song called "Wetter" and whatever she's singing about?
yeah,
Like we those
yeah. But
why
yeah, there's a lot of non-child appropriate stuff, and then because people are doing it for marketing purposes, like if you have corporations, like people gotta understand, like this AI stuff is run by multi-billion-dollar corporations, and their first concern is profit.
exactly
So they're not concerned about truth or philosophical concepts or justice or morality or anything. They're looking at how much money can they make? How efficient can they make it?
exactly
Now the question is like my whole argument with this is does the fire department make money? Right? This is the concept, right? Does the fire department is it supposed to make money? No, it's a service to put out the fire.
mm,
If you value everything is the profit motive, like trying to forecast a hurricane or tornado, that's going to cost money, doesn't make money.
Right.
Right. So if you start saying that things are inefficient because they don't make you money, well, weather forecasting for tornadoes and hurricanes and floods doesn't probably make you a lot of money.
Nope.
Protecting people like or from natural disasters, that probably doesn't make you money. So if you only focus on the things that make you money,
Right.
then you're not going to do things that are actually good for the overall society. It's only good for your greed.
Yeah. And
And
and and
so that's what you get these lenses like, oh, so this is appropriate for kids because it makes me money.
exactly. And unfortunately, it seems like, and I always just feel like there's and I might be dramatic on this, but it's because I'm so passionate about protecting children. I feel like there's a war on innocence. I feel like at least when I was growing up, there was a teenage phase, there was a preteen phase, there was a young child phase, and there was like a younger but older child. Like you had all the phases, and
Yeah, young adult phase versus like, just like, what's a child appropriate, age appropriate
but
stuff.
now, like you go into the stores, there's kitty crop tops, and it's like, what does a 5-year-old need a crop top for? Why is a 10-year-old walking around in super short shorts where you can see?
Well, yeah, it's all in, if you think about the internet and influencers, it's all influencers that, that's driving the marketing.
Exactly.
So the influencers are kind of like you're getting a filter
Yeah.
that's very kind of hedonistic.
Yeah.
It's all about like surface level stuff, what you look like,
Yeah.
the attractiveness or sexuality of it. It's not about like, to me, like a child appropriate book is like Charlotte's Web or Trumpet of the Swans or something like
That
that, right? You want to teach a kid about like,
other
mortality with Charlotte's Web. It's like it's a really great story. It'll make you cry, right? Trumpet of the Swan. You get these classic books, and there's reasons why they were in the canon. And then you get somebody maybe wants to market something because they're an influencer or they're some sports figure, and they come in, they do something that doesn't have any real value other than it's flash.
exactly.
It's got a hook. It's popular. Just because something got a million views doesn't mean it means anything
Exactly.
other than they got a million views.
And that's why, like with the influencer side, like you see my edges aren't laid down, I got braids in. That is partially like I used when I was in college. You wouldn't catch me outside without my edges swiveled and dead and down. But I I think, like, how can I tell the young child me that I'm looking at as my students, regardless of what color they are? How can I tell them that what they have is enough when I'm trying to alter what I have? Because
You're trying to do, yeah, the most. You're
yeah,
trying to do the most.
I want them to see, like, well, if Coach Yana is fine with her frizzy edges, I can be fine with my frizzy edges because I'm black. My edges don't lay down naturally. It just is what it is, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Like Beyonce
Yeah, I
said,
remember, like, back in the day, it was like, during the, people with black is beautiful phase, where
is
everybody stopped doing the perms and going like afros and wearing dashikis, and I remember all that. And it was like it was a phase because then everybody went back to permanent and doing whatever. But it was like the idea was like, why can't you have some pride in that? Why do we have to like conk our hair? Why do we have to do that? You don't have to do that, right? That you could just be natural.
and you
But
can't.
there's a but now it's still gone like back around. It's like, oh, you can't be natural.
Exactly. And I wear wigs, so I'm not trying to like shade nobody. I wear my hair straight. I will, wear a
Well,
slick
it's a choice what you want to look like
back.
at a time.
Exactly. It's a choice. It's not that I have to. And because I went through as a cheerleader, we had to have our hair straight. We had to have a certain look. Like it was very, very, very. So I went through a phase like after college where I wouldn't come out the house without a certain look. I wouldn't come out to this like, and that felt weird. And so now that I can do what I want to do because I'm not cheering, I'm not on nobody's team. If I want to cheer,
Yeah,
I can cheer squad virtually, and we can wear what we want to wear and have our hair how we want to have it. Because at the end of the day, black people and people of color, our hair doesn't is not always straight, and that's okay. We
no.
don't.
It's kinda like we've been kinda taught by a master to kinda denigrate ourselves because that was it was like there was a reason. Like, if you I can make you feel bad about yourself then you're gonna be hung up in that loop and not think about how I'm actually treating you
Come on.
or how what your situation is. So there's a lot of things that are distracting.
Yep.
And and I studied like politics about power structure, power dynamics. You tend to divide and conquer. If you can get somebody in their psychology to be at war with themselves,
Whew,
they won't be at war with you.
ever. They won't even know what's happening. That's true. And with
It takes a little bit of thought, critical thinking to not get caught up in what they want you to get caught up in.
exactly. And honestly, like it took me a while to even do the Dress to Impress club because I don't think that the outfits on Dress to Impress are child appropriate, if I'm being honest. Um,
Mhm.
I also know that the children are already there. So my thought is if I can get them where they are, perhaps I can still instill in them philosophies as a plane going by, but
Yeah,
philosophy and thoughts that I want them to have. So
yeah. You can try to guide them and
exactly,
still guide them from where they are to
exactly,
maybe have a wider range of, like, expansive thinking
exactly.
so
Because
they don't get stuck.
in my perfect world, even though I love playing Dress to Impress because it's a fun game, but in my perfect world, I would change all the outfits in Dress to Impress and make it kid appropriate outfits because, like I said, to me, I don't even wear the things that they have in that game. But since they're already there, the kids are already there. At least if I'm there with them, I can add, but you're perfect the way you are too. You're beautiful right now as well. And because the things, I'm not going to put their business out there, obviously, but there are some situations where they will say things that I'm like, oh, wow. And this is why I'm doing this club. And this is why I have to be here because they have to
Mhm.
know you don't have to look like this doll that's walking up and down this runway. You don't have to look like these influencers that don't even look like themselves because
Yeah,
they
well, they're probably getting, like, somebody's going to Adobe and changing the filter and changing, like, the frame and, altering the picture because that can be done.
exactly. And then they'll get the surgery and still alter the picture and still have this and that. And like this 5-year old, 6-year old, 7-year old, 8-year old is looking at that like this is what I should be. But that
Yeah,
person doesn't even look like that. So that is
yeah.
why, especially on
Oh,
club,
Hollywood.
yeah, I try to look as natural as possible. Sometimes even I have on we might it might be the end of the day and I'm looking rough, but I still show up because they need to see that it's
Yeah,
okay.
you need to read yeah, they need to see, like, what when you go to college, a lot of times if you get hung up like, I knew the kids who were, like, in the biology and the chemistry and the science kids, like, a lot of times they didn't care about how they looked. Because with, like, if I'm in my calculus, in my physics class, or I'm so hung up on the thing I'm working on that I didn't really care about the outward as much, and it
Yeah,
kinda got in the head, and we'd be kinda criticized that you guys are not really together.
yeah.
Yeah, but we're together in a different way.
I will say though, I do feel like there's a good balance because there you can be you could be on opposite ends. You could be so far into what you're doing that you forget the outside and you forget the health aspect and you forget like because sometimes when you look good, you do feel good, regardless of whatever
Yeah, the balance. You don't wanna go too far either way. That's always the harmony of
is that.
how do you get from being, like, just wearing your sweats every day and wearing, like, just, your t-shirt and not you looking kinda, like a college kid that just got out of bed, versus, like, somebody like, okay, you go to some colleges and they're wearing the jacket and they're
Right.
actually wearing the tie. And they still did the all-nighter, but they still put on the suit and the tie. So there's an idea. It's like, I should still have this uniform. I
Right.
should still have this sense of self that I should present, in this way. And it goes one way or the other. You can't stay there at a happy medium your whole life, but
Yeah.
you try to strive for some kind of balance.
Yeah. And I think ultimately, like people also just have to do what they feel is right. Like, and because sometimes, like, if you're gonna wear sweats, at least don't wear the same sweats every day. Like if you're gonna wear your sweatpants, at least change it. Or at least if you wore them on Monday, put something different on Tuesday, and then put that back on Wednesday. Like, Don't just wear the same thing all day. Or if you are going to do the suit and tie, do the suit and tie because you want to, not because you feel like less than unless you show up a certain way. So I really try to like emphasize first and foremost, what do you feel the most comfortable in? Not what does the society tell you should look like, or your
Yeah.
what do you feel most comfortable in? And then from there, once you feel most comfortable, now how can you elevate it to where you feel most confident? Because there's a difference between feeling comfortable and feeling confident in what you're doing. And if you feel confident in a sweats, wear your sweats. If you feel confident in your suit and tie, wear your suit and tie. But what can also happen is people will try to look so good based on what society tells them that now all of a sudden your whole body is exposed and you don't feel comfortable, but you feel stylish. And then that can be
Yeah,
a
yeah. Yeah, it's like, how do you find your individual, like, you equal, like, the thing that makes you you, right? The special s the secret sauce that makes you you, where you get the person that kinda stands out because they got style.
exactly,
Not that they're a fashion designer, but they have their own style and they're not following the trend, and then they probably gonna create a trend
exactly,
because they decide to be independent, and I'm gonna come out, wearing this different color scheme. It's not like anybody else's color scheme, this different style of wearing this something that doesn't normally go together, but then they're willing to be they've given themselves the permission structure to be
yes,
an individual. We see this like with an artist
yeah,
who, they come up listening to things, but then they come up with a style. You get like a Prince, you get a Sly Stone, you get a Bob Dylan,
yeah,
you get these really amazing artists that have like a unique spin.
exactly,
You get Tina Turner. They get like a way to present themselves. Like, that's her, but you know it when you see it. Like, that's how she carries herself. That's
exactly,
how she presents herself. Things like there's a confidence, and
yes,
it's like, well, how did you get that? It's like, well, because I started to like not care about what people thought. I started caring about what did I want to do.
exactly,
Am I actually doing what I want, or am I doing what they want me to do?
exactly. 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 And especially like you said with children too, because they're so easily influenced and everything that they're seeing, they're taking it in. When they see that this particular person is celebrated because they're wearing this, or they're celebrated because they're doing this, they just assume, well, this must be the way I should be. And if I'm not that way, then I'm not good enough. I'm not enough. So I think you brought
Mhm.
up a really good point. It's about individuality. And as much as we can use these tools and the technology to get advanced, we also have to be mindful of like, okay, well, where do I stand in this? Everybody wants to be a minimalist. I'm a maximalist. I like a lot of stuff. I want a lot of colors. I don't like just gray and tan. I want some pink in there, some yellow. That's why I paint clothes and stuff. But I think that um, as long as we as individuals, the ones who might go against the grain, because even when I was cheering and in the quote unquote in crowd, I still always felt like I didn't always fit. And I don't know if everybody feels that way. Because externally, it's like, well, how can't you? You know everybody, you're friends with everybody. Because I was like I guess you can call it a social hopper. So I just had multiple groups. So I would talk to the kids in science. I would talk to the kids at the band. I would talk to the football player. Like I just always hopped around. And sometimes people get mad about that. Like, why don't you just hang out with us? But at the end of the day, I think we just have to make a space for children starting out that they know you can be an individual. If people don't like it, oh well. And little by little, they practice it. And before you know it, they're wearing their own clothes, they're speaking their own voice, and they're stating their own opinions. And it's not influenced by what somebody told them they should be because they recognize that they're okay with being who they are. And this is my last thing because I still were coming up on time. Not my last thing, but my last point on this. Florence Scovel Shinn, she's one of my favorite authors. She says that there is a space in this world that only you can fill. And so I strive to represent that and put that into my students to recognize that for whatever reason, we don't know, you are the way you are, you look the way you look, you have the mind that you have, and of all the possibilities that could happen, somehow you were created just the way you were. And that is not by accident. There's something in this world that only you can do as your most authentic self. Not nobody else can do that. Nobody else can be a better
Yeah.
me. No one else can be a better you than you can be. No one else can be a better them than they can be. And as long as they are cultivating and becoming the best version of themselves, then hey, I feel like job well done.
Yeah. It's like you're trying to get people to believe that, the individuality within them is the point.
Yeah.
The point isn't to try to be, you know, whoever is in the top 10 on your Instagram or TikTok feed. It's not trying to be them. It's trying to be you. You know, and that's something you have to work out your whole life. Like you're gonna constantly evolve.
that's, that's true. That's true. But
People
hopefully,
always want to know, like, when am I going to be done? It's like, well, you're constantly evolving. As long as you're on the planet, you have another chance.
yeah, I'll add to that, like the more that because I'm also big on continuous evolution and studying and reading and just learning different philosophies and ancient practices and different type of stuff. And the more that I evolve, like 5 years ago, I was like, man, I didn't know I could be this healed or this good a version of myself. But me today versus even 3 years ago or versus last month even is a new version. So you bring up a
Mhm.
good point. It's a as long as you're living and you have a mind that can operate, there is work to be done on your individual self. And then the better you are for yourself, you naturally just emanate or radiate a better version for everyone around you. So I definitely agree.
Yeah, I think that's the point I would try to I get to people is like, not trying to be perfect, as an artist is not always the goal because sometimes the imperfection, like painters and musicians and filmmakers have found that sometimes the stuff that they were going to put on the cutting room floor is actually the thing that they actually keep. And
Yep.
so the idea of, well, what's perfect is very subjective, and you don't want to get caught in that perfection trap. The happy accident a lot of times is better than the thing that you thought was perfect.
Yeah. Or when you do it and you finish and then you go back and what you worked on is gone. And then instead of sometimes I'll be like, oh my gosh, I just did that whole thing. And then when you do it again, it's even better the second time. So
Yeah,
agree.
because you didn't lose anything. Like everything you go through, you went through for a reason, even if it didn't feel good.
Hmm.
I think the next moment that happens is because you went through it, right? And so it's actually important that you actually went through it.
Yes, 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 yes. And like so many experiences, like even to be frank and candid, me becoming a confidence coach, it wasn't necessarily because I was in a good space in my own life. It was because I was like I had a complete factory reset and everything went
Mhm.
to the trash. And I was like, what am I gonna do? Like instead of trying to force something and force myself to be this and that, like what do I actually enjoy doing? And because of struggles and my own depression that I experienced and my own feeling lost, I realized, oh my gosh, I was going somewhere that my soul didn't feel like it belonged. I was going somewhere that my heart wasn't feeling fulfilled. And so I started all over. And then I started working with children and realizing, oh, that's why nothing else worked. That's why I kept feeling like something was missing. It was because I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing. I was trying to be a social media person because that's what Instagram said. You got to help other people. That's so once I had a kind of a mental break, it was when I was able to find what made me feel good. So you're right. When things happen that are challenging or scary or don't feel good, sometimes I feel the universe redirecting you like, hey, you might be doing something, but perhaps look at it a different way. And had I not had that depression, had I not had that mental break, I wouldn't be here right now. And I'm so thankful for it now. But I wouldn't want to do it again. So there's that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the kind of path in life that, like the calm sea doesn't make a good captain. If you're like if you've like a ship captain, you've only navigated calm seas. Like I don't know if your crew's gonna want to be with you when you have to go through an ocean that's not so calm.
I'm on with it. I need to put that on a t-shirt or something. That was good.
Yeah, because it's like that's the way life is. Like life isn't always perfect. We strive for safety. We strive for the happy days, but in order to get to those places, sometimes you have to work.
Yep.
and the work is like it's constant. And when you're always I say, "Oh, did we get there yet?" It's like, well, we might have got to this specific destination, but we're not all the way there.
Exactly. 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 And then I'll
But
just just to because I just had to piggyback on that because that was a really great point. And I finally am getting to the space now where it's like if there is something that's going wrong, instead of like fighting and trying to go against the current, I'm like, okay, all right, this is what's happening now, and how can I work through it? And part of that has also made it easier because sometimes people are like, well, how are you still working on yourself and you're supposed to be helping children? Or how are you still evolving and you're supposed to be a confidence coach? It's like, just because you're still evolving doesn't mean you're perfect. Just
doesn't
because,
mean you can't do the work. I mean, yeah, we're all human beings, and we're never
done.
complete, like, with our evolution. And there's always somebody that might be better at doing something than you. Does
Exactly.
that mean you shouldn't do what you're doing? Or do you like every day there's an opportunity to adjust and
Exactly.
evolve and correct and and maybe say, hey, that actually is better. Maybe work on that and maybe make it expound on that. So I think yeah, it's like if you just keep everything in, then nobody's gonna know anything about what's going on. Right. So
Mhm.
every time you throw something at the wall, there's a problem where somebody could hate it, somebody could criticize it, but that's fine. You're like, "Oh, what are they doing?" For all the people that criticize the things that you do, it's like, well, what did they do?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, because the biggest critics are typically the Twitter thumbs. They're typically the people who, like Dr. Seuss says, those who care don't matter, and those who matter don't care. And I'm not saying that those people don't matter because I don't want to be my intent is never to hurt anyone. But the point is
Mhm.
that those in my own personal experience, those who judge the harshest, those who have the most to say about how horrible you are, 9 times out of 10, from my own personal experience, they're doing way worse behind closed doors than what you are doing and living your authentic truth. And okay, my other things, I told you I can talk and talk and talk. Another thing is, I think it's important that children and people in general recognize that just because you're evolving doesn't mean, like you said, that you're done. Doesn't mean that you're going to be perfect. It doesn't mean that everything's going to go right. You're always going to be learning, growing, and developing. And even though you're doing that, it doesn't mean you're not good or not worthy or something's wrong with you. And just understanding and accepting that life is a journey, your path is individual and your own is very helpful, especially for kids.
Yeah, because I mean that's the whole. You want to make sure people don't think they're just like a know-it-all, and they can't go any further. Because that's a trap. If people get stuck in the trap of they just get into their lane and they get into a comfort zone they can't handle. And this world is so dynamic nowadays that if you get stuck in the thing that feels comfortable, like you're gonna get hurt
Yep,
if you aren't willing to understand. Is like that comfort zone is actually not gonna keep you safe.
exactly.
So that's to teach people that having a little discomfort as an artist is how you continue to be an artist.
Exactly.
That like if you were just sitting there, like, well, then you're just living on the resting on your laurels. You're just like that. Maybe you're not producing anything anymore. That's fine. But like if you're gonna still be in the game, you're gonna have to have some moments that are not exactly going the way you wanted them to go.
Exactly.
And that's not wrong or right or bad or good. It's like it is what it is.
And to your point, eventually you'll get left behind if you don't go with the uncomfort. It's not always comfortable to grow, but if you don't grow, eventually you're gonna be behind everybody else because everyone that kept going through the discomfort is past here and now like all these businesses who thought they were so big, like Blockbuster and all these companies, they're like, oh, we're never gonna people are never going to watch movies from their homes and their iPads. No one's ever going to do that. But look what happened. So
Yeah,
it's
you gotta evolve. It's like people don't realize that if you don't go online, that you're like you think somebody's gonna go to that main street store, and now
exactly,
they're all Amazon's got it all
exactly,
because like you didn't figure out that somebody's always gonna come through the door. It's like, well, no, they're not. so
and it
so,
doesn't
so
matter how
like,
big you are.
it doesn't work out that way.
Exactly, exactly.
But like, so we have the laptoplifecoach.com. If people click there, what do they find?
So there you will find a full ecosystem about child development, specifically with confidence. I have a children's series that I'm working on. One of my students challenged me to make 100 episodes of this. I'm on episode 5, so I'm definitely not all the way there yet. I'm not even halfway done, but there's 5 episodes available. You also find children's meditations there. You'll find self-paced courses and options if your child can't attend the live classes. And then you'll also find my live social clubs where typically we'll meet weekly, do games, art, meditation, all the different things. So like I said, on the laptoplifecoach.com, you'll find a full ecosystem of childhood development and helping them become their best selves. And I also have a YouTube channel for adults specifically with like things that I think are important to recognize when you're trying to develop confidence in your child when you might not, because not everybody has the money to pay for the even like the membership that's on the lower end. People might not be able to pay for that. So I have stuff for everybody to access because all children deserve to feel seen, safe, and heard. And like I always say, confident children become capable adults. So I try to find every aspect that I can, including reading. I have storybooks on there where they can color and read and all that type of stuff, just to encourage children to be their best selves, develop confidence in ways that are fun and that anybody can access, whether they have money to do so or not.
Well, I think that's wonderful. And we want to let people know that that URL is clickable on the description of the podcast. We've been live on LinkedIn and YouTube. We tried to put it on Instagram. We'll see if that worked or not. But we will be on a bunch of other platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, Amazon Podcast, many others. We'll give you a landing page by tomorrow. But I want to thank you for being a guest on the Family Electric Coach podcast.
And I want to thank you for having me. And I do a signature round of applause every time I have a great time somewhere. So I just wanted to give you a round of applause as well, just because I had a really, really great time. This was a really in-depth conversation. And I just want to thank you for allowing me on your platform and just for having such an intellectual, deep, lively conversation. It was a blast.
Thank you. Have a great day.